Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing today? Yes, I have actually managed to find myself a reasonable amount of time on a Monday to do a lunch stream. I seem to spend most of my time on stream apologizing nowadays. But yeah, the schedule has been bananas for the last however long, but hopefully, I don't even know if I want to say it. The point is, I'm here today. I'm here today, and we're doing our geeky lunch chat. So let's dive right into it. What has been going on? Well, first of all, if you missed it, last week was the most I've streamed in a very, very long time. Specifically, that's because I was doing a charity fundraiser for Great Ormond Street Hospital. So I talked a little bit about this. Was it last Monday? Was it last Monday? No, I think a week has flown by since. Good grief. So Monday before last. So I was in Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital, aged 6. I had kidney failure. Specifically, one of my kidneys was not in a good state, and if untreated, it would have killed me. And the folks at Great Ormond Street were just freaking awesome. They saved my life. I am here today. So I look for opportunities when I can to do a bit of fundraising for them. And I found out quite late in the day, actually, that it was their Oh My Gosh streaming campaign to raise money specifically for a new children's cancer ward. Actually, a children's cancer centre. It was a full-on building. So I decided to do a slightly ambitious charity stream. Something at quite short notice. Sorry. It's annoying me, I've got something stuck in my teeth. It's really annoying when you're on camera. So what I decided to do, I decided to do two things. Firstly, I decided to do a bit of retro gaming because I do like me a bit of retro gaming, and I played Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Specifically, I played the slightly remastered version of that came out. And the reason I chose that particular game, which is it's a slightly odd one if you're not nostalgic for it yourselves, is it's the first video game I ever played, I believe. I certainly played it on the wards at Great Ormond Street Hospital, aged 6, on the Sega Master System. And so I thought it'd be a good one to play to raise money for Great Ormond Street. And good grief, it is hard. It's seriously, I've mentioned this before, games back then were just ludicrously difficult. I was playing it with infinite lives, and I still couldn't do it. There was at least one point early on where I thought I'm just going to jack this in, I can't do it. And then I did hit a point near the end where it's like, nope, I'm pretty sure on the final level of it. And there was a bit where literally you had to swim between, like, there were like spikes here and spikes here, and you had to swim between it. And it was a character's height between the two loads of spikes. That was it. Like, there was no leeway. It was get it perfectly right to swim your character between these two sets of spikes. And if you fail, you die. You lose a life. And admittedly, I was on infinite lives, but I'd have to start the swim bit again. And you had to go through 2 bits of that in one. So even if I, by chance, managed to do it perfectly once, I'd have to then do it again a second time. So yeah, that didn't happen. But I made my way through most of the game, and I very much enjoyed it. And I will take a pause to say hi to awesome people. I see Amundas Cats, I see a Mashashi. So thank you so much for joining me today. Just doing a little bit of an update on the recent charity streams. So Alex Kidd in Miracle World, awful lot of fun, very much enjoyed that. The second part of this, which was the more ambitious part of it, and thank you to people who joined for that, was I read the entire Treasure Island cover to cover over 4 streams. I totaled it up. It took a total of 6 hours and 21 minutes to do it, with a third of those streams being the longest. It was a lot. No, it was. I did enjoy it. I absolutely did. But it's a challenge. It's nerve-wracking for a number of reasons. I mean, one of the things about reading a novel like that is you've got to be okay with kind of cold reading something, which I tend to do a lot anyway, because I read bedtime stories to my daughter, and sometimes I know them pretty well, but it's a lot of, you just got to read it and run with it, which is fine. But when you're reading something with a lot smaller text and something where the language is a lot more flowery or at least more convoluted in certainly some of the ways some of the characters spoke, like Long John Silver and Ben Gunn in Treasure Island, their way of speaking didn't exactly flow. And then there was the odd word in there. It's like, I do not know that word, so I've got to take a stab at pronouncing it. But no, I enjoyed it. It was a little tough on the throat because I was recovering from man flu at the time. So it was a little bit of a challenge. And there were times when you get into the flow of it and you're absolutely fine. And then your brain starts to wonder, oh, I'm reading aloud online. People are watching me. So I can't make mistakes. And then you start overthinking what you're reading. And then you start to panic a little bit. But no, thank you. Lovely comments coming in from chat. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thank you. And thank you for the donations. For those who didn't see, we raised a total of £171, which is awesome because we were going into the final stream of that on I think 90, with a goal to trying to hit 100, and we did it on the night. And then some extra donations afterwards that we made it to £171, which is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I would call that a success. If you did not catch any of that, I'm not seeing you to go and watch all my VODs. But if you'd like something to listen to, specifically the Treasure Island bit, I've stuck the it's like a link to the playlist in the chat there, should you wish to listen to my read of Treasure Island. I will not claim it to be perfect, and I know for a fact on the first stream I was talking too quickly. That was a nerves thing. At some point maybe I should take it and slow it down a little bit. But I enjoyed it, and I hope you will as well if you weren't able to join us live. And I am taking ideas for next time. I would like to do this sort of thing again, whether it's for a fundraiser or not. I think kind of bedtime reading streams, I think, could definitely be a thing, which is cool. And if I was doing it not for charity, it means I don't have to read as much. It means I can limit us to a reasonable number of chapters rather than, right, I need to do an entire part of this, or I need to do 2 parts of it in order to finish by the fundraising deadline. So I will take suggestions on that. I guess the caveat on that one is it does need to be something in the public domain, or something where I have the permission of the author. I know there are an awful lot of streamers out there who... is my microphone working? I'm just aware that my captions are not pointing up. Could someone just give me some sort of sign that my audio is coming through all right? Because my captions have stopped, and I don't know why. Or at least they are claiming to have stopped, from my perspective. Oh, they seem to have started again, so clearly the mic is working, but it makes me nervous. Okay, cool. Right, where was I? Yeah, there are a lot of streamers who break this rule, this copyright rule, and they'll just read anything on stream. And I am not a big enough streamer that I would get called for it. It's not like something where... It's not like if you play music on stream and they've got automated tools that just pick up the fact that you're playing whatever it is and then demonetize you or give you copyright strikes or stuff like that. I would say 99% sure I'd get away with it, but I'm not comfortable doing it. It's breach of copyright, so I won't do it. So if there are public domain books, or you know of authors who would be more than happy to have their work read, but I would need written permission from them, I would be more than happy to do some more bedtime, story time streams. Very much enjoyed it. And I am already thinking ahead to some potential fundraising ones as well. I think when we get to Christmas, I think it'd be quite good to read A Christmas Carol. I know a few people who do that, and I think it's not that long. It's about an hour and a half to read the entire Christmas Carol, so really wouldn't be too bad at all compared to 6 hours and change. But yeah, open to suggestions on that one. That would be fun. What else? Well, a little one on this one. What I've been working on in the evenings, now that I don't have presently any short thoughts that I'm editing and I'm not doing an awful lot of streams, is I'm working on the Little But Fierce third anniversary release. So every year since I released the starter edition for Little But Fierce, I put out a little free like 1 to 4 page add-on every year, just as a little thank you. The first one was Must Give Us Pause, which is wonderful artwork by Moondust Cats here. That gives you kind of cat folk and dog folks as 2 playable races. And then last year released 6 Impossible Things that had a collection of 6 things from Alice in Wonderland, including like the growing potions and the Jabberwock, and from that. Oh, you could play Dodo people and Rabbit people, which was cool. So I did that last year. This year I wasn't quite sure what to do, and then I found that I had some pretty cool, not public domain artwork, but artwork that I got on a license that meant I could use them in future stuff, which is they are like little mushroom people. Something like I think that they use the term mushlings for it, which is very, very cute. And along the line of having a good pun, I'm doing that. So the 3rd anniversary freebie for Little Bit Fierce that will come out, I want to say off the top of my head, 30th of April. I should probably check my diary to make sure that that is factually accurate. Let's have a quick look. 30th of April. Is it the 30th of April? Oh dear, have I got my dates wrong? Possibly. Let's do a little search in my diary while I'm doing this. You don't get to see my diary though. Little Bit Fierce. Yeah, this is where I find out I've messed up my own calendar. But I believe it's the 30th of April. That is what I've been working towards. 29th of April. There we go. 29th of April. We'll be releasing The Spore the Merrier, which is going to give you mushling, playable mushling kin, as well as 2 additional mushling creatures that you can add into your games. It's smaller in scope than 6 Impossible Things, but I think it'll be a little bit of fun to add in there as a little freebie. But I don't want to draw my attention too much away from all the writing I need to do for Hero Edition, so that I can actually do that Kickstarter launch next year, because I've got a lot of work to do for that, and I really want to get that writing done. By the end of the summer would be nice, but we'll see. What else? Well, a little segue on this one. I had to do a trip to Leeds for my day job last week, which is 2 moderately long train journeys. And I didn't have any, and I was actually travelling in the evening, so I wasn't on work hours. So what I decided to do is I decided to watch a film, and I've been recommended by a few people to watch this, and I thought I'd give it a go, and that was actually watching the relatively new release, that is Wicked. Now, let me say, I enjoy musicals, I really do. And I'm not going to say anything bad about it. This is not the prelude to me bashing this film at all. I do enjoy musicals. I've not seen one for a long time. Musicals that are adapted into movies are kind of hit and miss, as is everything that's an adaptation, to be honest. There are some that I think do a very, very good job. Like the Les Mis movie, I think, for the most part, is very, very strong. Russell Crowe's singing, it's not quite up to scratch, but he gives it a good go. There are others which, I mean, when I was younger, I was a big fan of Phantom of the Opera, and I'm still rather fond of it. I think the movie adaptation of that falls down in some of the ways that Les Mis does, in that you've got Gerard Butler is not a strong enough singer for doing the role of the Phantom, but everyone else is pretty damn good, and I think aesthetically it looks brilliant. It's a very pretty film, this Phantom of the Opera. But Wicked, I had not seen the stage play, which is kind of incredible considering how big it is as a show. Obviously I knew some of the songs, but I hadn't seen it. And I didn't quite know what to expect, other than the fact it was recommended to me by a number of people whose opinions I trust. I really enjoyed it. I thought the plot itself didn't quite go where I thought it was going to go. The songs, there weren't as many set piece songs, for lack of a better term. My terminology is going to fall down here. So there I've got to let me just quickly Google to get some of this. So a lot of musicals have what I would consider to be big set piece songs, but there are also these kind of recitative songs, which are almost like a narration to music, for lack of a better term. They're not songs that you would kind of listen to in isolation, because it's like, well, this is kind of plot as a song rather than a big set piece number. So there were more songs in Wicked, in my opinion, that were fell into that category. Not as many set piece ones as I thought there would be. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the performances were very, very strong. I think the two headline actors were absolutely fantastic, and I'm very pleased when they got to the end that they did the kind of cross-billing thing, so neither of them is actually before the other in the credits. For those who don't know, it is only the first act of the show, so it finishes at the end of Act 1, which is Defying Gravity. And my understanding is Act 2 is a lot more along the lines of the plot of The Wizard of Oz, but with some twists and turns along the way. But I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm curious how much they changed it and if they padded it out at all to turn one act of a show into a 2.5-hour movie. But I thought it was very, very good. I was very impressed. I will happily see the second half when it comes out. Probably worth noting the visual effects are very good as well. There's an awful lot of practical stuff in there. The VFX are very good as well, especially the animals, like the flying monkeys, I think were done very well. They're kind of Planet of the Apes level creature work, which looked absolutely brilliant, really does. There, without too much of a spoiler, there is a scene where the regular monkeys become flying monkeys, so they grow wings out of their backs. And it looks great. It really does. You believe everything about that. And if you've not checked it out, Corridor Digital do a really good, one of their VFX artists react episodes specifically talk about the visual effects of Wicked. So I was very impressed on this. Last thing I'll say on Wicked on this one was my father-in-law's opinion of it. Now, my father-in-law is a working class kind of handyman, tradesman kind of guy from South East London, Essex kind of guy, very, very working class. And I'm not saying that in a bad way at all, but it gives you kind of a notion of the sort of films he likes. He likes action films, he likes fantasy, he likes old westerns. That is his jam. So when he said the other day, I watched that new film Wicked on Apple TV, I was not expecting this. And his opinion was, I don't know what all the fuss is about. It was very slow and everyone kept singing. To which I kind of countered, it's a musical. And he's like, yeah, I know. Sing all the time. So you can't please everyone. But no, I very much enjoyed it. If you've not seen it, I would recommend giving it a watch. From people I know who have seen both the show and the movie, they say the show is better, but I think that's pretty much a given. I think it is very, very hard, honestly, for any adaptation, for the most part, to say that the movie is better than the source material, unless it is fundamentally different in what they've done with it. But, there are probably some people... There are certainly arguments out there when you go down the Lord of the Rings route. There are some people who say that actually Lord of the Rings was better as movies. Other people who would think you crucify people for saying things like that. I would like to see the stage show at some point. So I think that is that's good. I think that's good. Right, last bit I wanted to talk about this one, and this is going down my very nerdy cinephile sort of rabbit hole, and I'm going to take a quick swig of drink before I get into this. So for those who don't know me, or have not tuned in for Geeky Lunchtime Chats where I've talked about this before, I'm quite a cinephile. I love a good behind the scenes of how movies are made. The standard I hold a behind the scenes to is like I want something like a Lord of the Rings appendices style behind the scenes. Don't just give me like a 30-minute, I'm going to interview some people and talk about, you know, one of the set piece action scenes. I want to know everything. I want to know how you wrote the script. I want to know how you cast it. I want to know about filming it. I want to know about post-production. I want to know about visual effects. I want to know about music. I want to know the whole thing, and tell me all the quirks and oddities of how this movie was made. I love that kind of stuff, and I've talked about this before. Gold standards, I hold to this, Lord of the Rings appendices. The Hobbit appendices are still pretty damn good, but the Lord of the Rings ones are better. The behind the scenes on the Alien quadrilogy, I think especially the ones for Alien, Aliens and Alien 3, I think are fascinating, all for different reasons. The behind the scenes for the first Avatar, I think is very, very interesting as well. A lot of stuff to get into there about how James Cameron made that film. So there are some really strong. Oh, Hannibal. Hannibal's got a good one as well. And Gladiator. In fact, Ridley Scott's films generally have very good behind the scenes making ofs. So yeah, I love these quirks about how movies are made. And one of the things I wanted to talk about on this one, because my wife and I watched Boiling Point the other day. Now, for those who've not seen Boiling Point came out. It was a film that was released in, I want to say 2021, and there was a sequel TV series, a 4-part mini series that came out in 2023. I would say it's very good. It stars Stephen Graham, who is a Liverpudlian actor who you've probably seen in an awful lot of stuff recently because he's a very, very good actor. And it is about the chaos of a kitchen and a restaurant, and essentially what happens in one evening. And you go between the kitchen and the front of house and stuff like that. And I won't spoil the plot of it. But one of the things that makes it particularly interesting, other than the fact that it makes me clear that I would never want to work in the hospitality industry ever, because it looks very, very chaotic, is that the whole thing, and the whole film is an hour and a half, I want to say, hour and a half, hour 20, is it's one shot. It is one shot from start to finish. You start just before the restaurant opens that evening with Stephen Graham's character coming into the restaurant, and you end kind of near the end of the evening. But it is a one-er. 1 second. Because I'm aware there is something else recently that has come out that is also of this kind. Is it Adolescence? Is it Adolescence that's come out that's also a one-er? But the interesting thing about this, other than the fact that they did it at all, is that it is a true one-er, and by that we mean that it is literally one shot from start to finish with no cuts. And this is something that's actually very, very rarely done, largely because it's expensive to do. A lot of things where they advertise it or people rave about it being a one-er, being a one-shot thing, there's actually lots and lots of hidden cuts, which means that they can take one take and a different take for the next bit and blend them together. And generally that is done if you are watching something that's got supposed one-ers in it. The way you'll notice that the two most obvious ways of doing it, other than digital blending, are a whip pan, and by that I mean that you're focused on one character, you turn the camera around, probably past a wall, and whip around to the other character. And that moment, that couple of frames where you're facing the wall, it lets them actually cut between two different takes, and they'll probably do a blur between the two, and you won't even notice it. But it's an obvious way to do that. They do that. The opening shot of Serenity, when you do a walk around the whole ship, it looks like a one-er. It's actually two shots. When they go between the decks, there's a whip pan, and that masks the cut between the two. So whip pans is one easy way you can mask cuts in a one-er. The other one is wiping the screen. Now, this is something that you could not normally. It's something you can really only do digitally nowadays. You could have done it back in the day, but it would be very hard to do. And essentially what that is, if you've got a character that kind of cuts across the screen. So for example, if we take my hand, let's see if I can get this right. So if I was talking to you and had my hand go whoosh like that, what you could do essentially is you could use my hand, the outline of my hand, and you can see my cat scratches, as essentially the matte tracking line for cutting between two different shots. Essentially, while I'm at this stage, this bit over here is the new shot, and this bit over, let's point it in the right place, this bit over here is the old shot. And essentially, as I cut across, I can cut between two takes, and it gives you a nice, clean way of doing it without noticing it. There are less clean ways you can do it. You can just blur between two things, and it might work or it might not work. But those are the general ways you hide cuts in Wanners. But they've become a really big thing nowadays. They were something that was very, very rarely done, and now has become a bit of a fad, for better or worse. I mean, I think one of the ones that I think a lot of people drew to was, from a TV perspective, Daredevil. Not the new Daredevil, though it does have ones in it. The Netflix Daredevil series had kind of famous/infamous hallway fights where there would be a really prolonged action scene in a hallway, and it would be done as one long shot. Like you would travel down the corridor and you come back up the corridor, and you nip into a room and nip back out of the room. And I think in the first season of Daredevil, it may have been a true Wanner, or there may have been very few cuts in it. I know the ones they did in the later series of Daredevil, there were more and more cuts in, which I'm not holding that against them. They still look brilliant, but it's less impressive when you've got cuts in it. And I think one of the things that made the Daredevil Wanner from the first season particularly good, and I'm sure they did it for the other ones as well, but one of the things that made us really wow about it was the fact that you've got bits that are clearly the principal actor, Charlie Cox, and bits that are clearly the stunt double for Dare. I say clearly, they have to be. Not because they're bad, but because they're doing stunts that you wouldn't get your main actor to do. So you've got bits that are Charlie Cox and bits that are the stunt actor, and they've managed to do it's what's called the Texas switch, which essentially is you have something here, and you have someone come along, go down behind something, come up, and it's someone else coming out. Now, you don't do it quite that obviously, but for example, you could have Charlie Cox, going into a room, the camera follows around the door frame, and when you come around the other side, Charlie Cox is now hidden, and you're seeing the stunt actor for a bit. There are clever ways to mask this. It's not quite as obvious as someone goes behind a barrel and comes back out and it's someone else. Though you can do very clever things with that. There is a great shot in Return of the King. Is it Return of the King? Yes, it is Return of the King. Yeah, in Return of the King, where Denethor is carrying Pippin and throws him towards camera, and you see Pippin pop his head up at the end. And that's actually Billy Boyd, the main actor for Pippin, lying down at the front just out of frame, and Denethor walks towards camera carrying a scaled double who throws them. The person rolls up to here, and then Billy Boyd pops his head up. It's wonderfully done. So you can do really good Texas switches without it looking really janky. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing with the Wanners is there has to be a reason for doing it. You have to be doing something very impressive in your scene that actually is worth the effort of doing the Wanner. And there is a question of, well, if they don't realise it's multiple takes stitched together, does it matter? Whether it's a Wanner or not? And I think that depends on whether you're being clever or not. I think it's as simple as that. If you were doing, let's say, a really simple dialogue scene, let's say you've got some people in a room talking, and you just pan the camera around the whole time. It's a bit of effort on the actors, but the fact is, probably a lot of those actors have a stage background. They're used to doing an hour of talking. That's fine, The reason it worked well in Boiling Point is you're going in and out of the kitchen, down corridors. You've got long walk and talks where someone is walking towards the camera. That means that the camera person is walking backwards and not crashing into things. logistically that's quite difficult to do. The Daredevil ones work because you're going in and out of the action bits, you were switching between the main actor and the stunt actor. They're very, very impressive. What's it called, which I've not seen? Is it 1914? 1914? The war movie. Is it called 1914? What's it called? War movie, one shot. 1917. I was so close. 1917. That's very clever. Now, it's not one shot. 1917. It's really not. There is a lot of digital blending. There's digital doubles to blend between different scenes and stuff like that, which is not to knock it. The fact is, if you're doing a very complicated movie that takes place in different places, and you are able to narratively make it make sense that it is one shot and transition between stuff without it feeling ridiculous, that is really impressive. Because the fact is, in most movies, you need to cut between different scenes to make it work. You need to cut between different locations. And the second you're saying this is one shot, you're really making your life difficult in that regard. You know, because you have to follow one character, or there has to be a handoff between this person speaks to this person and that person carries on. You know, it's like playing tag or something like that. You have to keep it going in that manner. You can't just go, oh, I want to cut to over what's happening in the church or something like that. You can't. You could get the person on the phone who's talking to the person in the church, and you could hear the person in the church's voice. I don't know why I chose a church, I just did. You could hear their voice, but you can't cut away. So the second you do that, you make your life very, very difficult. So if you're doing a wanna, whether a true wanna or a fake wanna, and you're doing something clever with it, I think it's totally worth it, and you can do some very clever things. If you're just doing it for the sake of trying to show off, and you don't actually gain anything from being the wanna. Let's take the example of sitting round, let's say you're sitting around a kitchen table and it's a wanna for an hour. There's probably not a lot you gain from doing that as a wanna, because, you know, no, you would narratively, in terms of the flow and the audience experience, I think whether you're moving a camera around to talk to them or cutting between stuff, I don't think it makes a difference. I really don't think it does. I think there are examples that aren't much further than that, which I think are more clever. You know, take the there are a couple of ones in Children of Men, and if you've not seen Children of Men, that's an amazing movie. There is a very famous wanna, and it is a fake wanna because there are some cuts in there, which takes place in a car. And the reason it's very clever what they're doing in the car is you've got a camera in the middle of the car, spinning around and talking to people, but the second you look at it with a critical eye, you go, there is no space for all those four people to be in that car and the camera, which actually means that every time the camera turns around, people are ducking their heads down. There are seats that pull out, the bits of the car that come out to make it work, and it is very, very clever. And the second you realise that while watching it, you go, oh wow, I don't know how they did this. And that's wonderful nowadays, because a lot of times the magic wand of VFX is there, which is not to undermine the work of visual effects artists. You work incredibly hard and are under-recognised. But the fact is, there's a lot of things nowadays you can go, that's visual effects. Whereas if you go, I don't know how they did that, that's fun. That's really fun when you get to do that sort of thing. And you realise that. I'm just going to turn the music down ever so slightly. I've just realised it's a little bit loud, possibly. But I love that kind of stuff. I really do. So watch out for wannas in things. And I would recommend watching Boiling Point. It was very enjoyable. Excellent performances. But watch out for trickery and look out for things that do unusual things with a camera. I'll give you a couple of examples to walk away with on this one. I the other day, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Mash, I recorded an episode of TYG Talks, where we watch a film and we watch the film off camera. You don't get to see the film itself, and then we review it afterwards. And we watched Ralph Bakshi's Fire and Ice, which I'd not seen before. The only Ralph Bakshi thing I'd ever seen was his Lord of the Rings, his adaptation of the first half of Lord of the Rings. And I mean, there's some wonderfully cheesy stuff in it, so I won't spoil our conversation there. But actually, there are some bits that are visually very, very nice. And I don't just mean the rotoscoping and stuff like that. There is some really good point of view shots in there. And I think a point of view shot can work incredibly well. And I'm not talking the slightly silly Doom shot from the movie Doom with The Rock and Karl Urban. But actually, you can get an awful lot of tension by seeing something from a character's point of view. Especially if it's wobbling and flipping around and stuff like that. And if you can do clever things like getting your character to look in the mirror and not see a cameraman there, that is very impressive. You have to do a hell of a lot of clever tricks to pull that off, generally involving mirrors that aren't actually mirrors, that are actually a sheet of glass to a duplicate set behind the mirror. Love that kind of stuff. I've talked about Alien 3 before. Alien 3 is really interesting for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons I really like it is most of the film is, or certainly the final act of it, is incredibly claustrophobic. Most of the film is claustrophobic, but the third act is running through tunnels underground. And one of the things that, from a camera perspective, makes it very interesting is the camera is down very, very low and looking upwards. It makes it feel incredibly claustrophobic because you can actually see the ceiling of the sets. And that's odd when you look at a lot of TV nowadays, and especially if you look at older TV, because a lot of things that were shot, both TV and film to be honest, didn't have roofs. When it wasn't a real location, but it was just a studio where they're shooting something, they never built the roof. One, because you'd never see it, and secondly, they have to have the lights coming in from somewhere. So the fact that they made Alien 3, where the camera is constantly looking at the ceiling, meant they had to be very clever in where they're hiding all the lights and stuff like that to make it work. So, love that. What other examples did I have on there before I wrap this up? This is another one from Corridor Digital. A lot of people talk about why is Jurassic Park better than Jurassic World, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But one thing that Corridor Digital pointed out on this one is the framing is different. If you watch Jurassic Park, it's widescreen, but it uses like the maximum height of the screen. Like if you watch it on a monitor, like a widescreen monitor, it will fill the entire of the monitor. It will of course go all the way from left to right, but it will go all the way from top to bottom, probably without any black bars, without any letterboxing on there. If you watch Jurassic World, it's a lot thinner. So it goes all the way from left to right, but you've got black bars at top and bottom. Might make it look more cinematic, potentially, but it's not good when the thing you're trying to wow your audience with are big creatures, because you want big creatures to take up a lot of height on your screen. It's why that shot in the first Jurassic Park, where they get out of the jeeps and walk along and you see the Brachiosaurus's feet, and you pan the camera up and you see the height of it. Why it works so well is you've got a lot of height in your screen, whereas if you do a similar sort of thing in Jurassic World, where you see some of the big creatures, they have to move the camera and you don't get the whole thing in screen. There you go, little tricks and stuff like that. And my last little piece on this before I leave you, this is probably a rant in and of itself. The things that work well, I find in movies, is when every shot has a purpose. So, now they could be short shots, they could be really long shots. Literally in terms of the amount of time they are on screen before you cut to something else. There was a horrible trend in the noughties, and I first noticed it in the James Bond film A Quantum of Solace. And I think a lot of people pointed out about some of the Bourne movies, is that there became they would think of it as a trick, I think of it as a trope, in cutting action scenes that are incredibly rapid fire. Like you literally hold a frame and then cut to something else, then cut to something else, then cut to something else, and cut to something else. It makes the action feel very frenetic, and it does. But the problem is you don't know what the heck is going on, because it takes time for your eyes to actually focus on what you're seeing. Now, there may be a reason you don't want the eyes to focus. You know, if you want something to feel very, very chaotic, you know, it probably works well in a horror movie if you're cutting between a lot of stuff, because actually your brain doesn't quite see everything. It just gets the vibe and the feel of it. It's why, I mean, It's not done in the same way, but it's the same principle as the first Alien film, not showing you the creature for a very long time. You know, what you don't see can be scarier than what you do see. But if done badly, you just have no clue what's going on. You really don't. And that is a danger with cutting stuff very, very badly. That you don't actually realise what is going on because you can't tell. You're just cutting between stuff way too quickly. To the degree that, and this is a perfect counter example, I saw a bit of an interview the other day with actor Geoffrey Rush talking about the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and he said that he tried to make sure he was on the left side of frame in every scene that he could. Reason why? He reckons that people look at a screen from left to right in the same way that we read, so that if he's on the left side of frame, you're spending more time looking at him. I don't know if it's true or not, but the fact is, if you're doing quick, cut, you're not going to see anything, let alone get a chance to soak in Geoffrey Rush's performance and then possibly pan over to whomever he's sharing the scene with. There you go. Just some thoughts to leave you with here on things I find interesting in filmmaking and things you might want to keep an eye out for when watching stuff later on. Or maybe not. If you're not as geeky as me, or not particularly a cinephile kind of geek, maybe that was incredibly boring and not something you will ever take any interest in. But there we go. Just something I threw out for you. Okie doke. I mean, let's wrap this up then. First of all, I'll say thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I will try and be more consistent in terms of doing these streams. But thank you so much for joining me today. I can see an awful lot of people in the chat, both the chatters, Moondust Cat, Mashashi. I can also see K of Double K. I can see Papaya. I saw a couple of other people floating around as well. I saw Party Gandalf for a little bit. You're not here anymore. I see Ace Dumpling. Thank you so much for even just lurking here and listening in. I really appreciate it. It's awesome of you. If you would like to see more of my streams, whether it's Geeky Lunch chats, whether it's chats with games, with board games, whether it's me playing video games or anything like that, or reading more books, please follow me on Twitch and on YouTube. I'm at DC Bradshaw on both. If you want to follow me on socials, best place is Blue Sky. I'm at dcbradshaw.com and at DC Bradshaw on Threads. It's not as good as Blue Sky, but I am on there as well. If you would like to support me, and good grief, I've not turned something back on after my charity stream. If you would like to support me, please consider taking a look at my Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/dcbradshaw. I keep it as cheap as possible, but the fact is I don't really make any money out of what I do. I make some sales a little bit fierce, but most of that money goes towards subscriptions and stuff, like paying for Zoom and stuff like that, my Zoom subscription for doing Little Bit Fierce and stuff like that. So I don't really make much in the way of money from this, and it does take a bit of time. So if you can, it will be amazing if you consider subscribing on ko-fi.com/dcbradshaw. It's £3 a month, and it really does support me. It means that actually I can pay those bills, the expenses I have to do what I do, and then actually, if I manage to make a bit of money out of it, I can then invest that in doing the next thing. It's why it's taken so long to release the next Little Bit Fierce book. The Stuff of Legend has been ready for the best part of a year now, but I just don't have the spare cash to pay for the art to release it, because essentially any money I make is just getting invested back into expenses and not even into exciting things I want to invest money back into. So please consider ko-fi.com/dcbradshaw. It's £3 a month. It will really make a difference. But I understand if you can't. I totally understand if you can't. Next stream will hopefully be Wednesday. We'll be playing a board game or a puzzle game of some sort. I don't know which one it'll be. We'll find out possibly on Wednesday morning. I would also ask, if you haven't done so already, please check out Short Thoughts. So Short Thoughts is my bite-sized interview show. We're currently on hiatus. We got to the end of season 2, and I'm not going to start pre-production on season 3 in earnest until the summer. But there's 18 episodes out there. It's about 4.5 hours worth of listening. If you've not watched those episodes yet, please give them a watch, give them a listen. I am slowly working my way towards YouTube partner, but essentially I just need to get my watch hours up. So if you could listen to those interviews, have that on in the background while you do stuff, recommend it to people, that would be amazing, because currently my watch hours is something like 270 hours worth of watching that people have done in the last year, which is pretty good, but I need to get to like 3,000 or 4,000 to actually make any money out of any of this. So please, please, please consider watching my streams, listen to all of Treasure Island, that's 6 hours worth of content, and recommend. I like Blue Sky. Blue Sky is a lot friendlier than the bin fire that Twitter became, but there's no algorithm. So the only way that people see my stuff is if you're following me or if other people retweet it. You can't just stumble upon stuff on Blue Sky. So please, if you like what I do, retweet. Share it with people, post about it, put comments on the YouTube video so it bumps up on the algorithm there. It really does help me. Okay, I think we're going to do a little raid across potentially. Who is on? I can see Eminog is on, so we might pop across there. Let me just see what they're doing. Cool, what are they playing? They're doing some fundraising to get themselves a new gaming chair. That's cool. Oh no, it's not a gaming chair at all. I'm absolutely lying. They're fundraising for a wheelchair of all things. So absolutely, good grief. Let's go across there and show them some love. Let's do that. People on YouTube, you're just going to disappear, I'm afraid. You're going to get my end screen. People on Twitch, we're going to jump across to Eminog's stream and give them some love. All right. Okay, hopefully see you on Wednesday and have a wonderful rest of your Monday. All right. Take care. Bye.